Finished. And don't bother imagining the will, sweetheart. I went still. The room seemed heavier. The tea in my mug cooled instantly. No explanation, no hint, just a clean slice like she'd practiced it beforehand. I tapped out 2 words. Understood. Then lifted my cup and took a slow sip, the bitterness spreading across my tongue like smoke. By midnight. My phone was flashing with missed calls and messages. And that's when everything began to collapse. People always said my family looked flawless. Dad in his pressed shirts, Mom's pearls catching the Sunday sun, my brother Brandon laughing loud enough to fill the whole diner. From the outside, we were Tulsa's picture-perfect American dream. But every dream shines until you notice the fractures beneath the polish. Dad, Stephen Hayes, built his kingdom one greasy kitchen at a time. The man could turn a dying diner into a full restaurant on sheer will and stubborn pride. He was the type who believed respect came from obedience, not affection. These restaurants are our heritage, he'd say, waving a fork at me across the dinner table. You'll learn the trade, Susan. But I never wanted the trade. I wanted brightness, color, and room to breathe. Not the constant smell of frying oil. I wanted to design, to build things that felt alive. When I told him I'd been accepted into an art school in Chicago, he laughed like I told the world's funniest joke. If you walk away from this family's work, he said, you walk away from our support. And he meant every word. That I paid my own tuition, juggling 2 jobs and student loans, while Brandon got a new car at 16 for helping out at the diner. Mom never stopped him. She'd pour herself another glass of wine, smile tight, and whisper, he's only hard on you because he sees potential. But I wasn't naive. She saw what I saw. Brandon was the chosen one. The heir they'd already crowned. Years moved on. I built my design firm out of a cramped 1-bedroom apartment. Word traveled quickly. By 30, I was redesigning boutique hotels and luxury restaurants across Oklahoma. But at family dinners, it was always Brandon, his project, his big plans. Clever Dad would mutter about my work without lifting his eyes. When Mom got sick 5 years ago, I stepped in instantly. I covered her treatments, her flights, every medical bill. When Brandon's newest venture crashed, I wired him $30,000 to clear it. When Dad needed new equipment for the restaurant, I paid for that too. They always said thank you, the polite, hollow kind. Then came the next favor. Looking back, I think I kept doing it because deep down I hoped someday they'd look at me not as the outsider, not as the afterthought, but as family. Turns out, family wasn't the issue. Their definition was. And the night my mother sent that message, I finally saw the truth for what it was. It began with a family meeting that felt more like a trial. Dad called it a conversation about the future. I should have known that meant Brandon's future, not mine. They gathered around the long dining table, the one lined with framed photos of Brandon winning trophies and cutting ribbons at Dad's restaurants. I stood at the end, laptop open, prepared to pitch my proposal. A sustainable design firm that could partner with hotels and restaurants statewide. Eco-materials, long-term savings, a real strategy, not a fantasy. I barely got 5 minutes in before Dad cut me off. You think hotels care about reused wood? He said, voice blunt but sharp enough to injure. They want cheap, not your fancy experiments. Brandon snorted without lifting his eyes from his phone. Yeah, maybe stick to decorating houses, sis. Mom lingered near the counter, pretending to tidy napkins, refusing to meet my eyes. My hands shook beneath the table. It's not decorating, I whispered. It's design. It saves money. And it's where the industry is headed. Dad leaned back, arms folded. We're not wasting money on your fantasy. Brandon's opening another location. That's what matters. Something inside me splintered. Years of sacrifice. The bills I'd paid, the nights I lay awake worrying about Mom's treatments, meant absolutely nothing. Mom, I said softly, you've seen my work. You know this could succeed. She hesitated, her gaze flicking toward Dad. It just sounds risky, Susan. You know how the restaurant world works. Her words struck deeper than his jabs ever had. Risky. The same label he slapped on my dreams when I wanted to go to college. Then out of nowhere, Tara, Brandon's wife, spoke up. Her voice was gentle, but it sliced through the room's tension. I think it's creative, she said. Sustainability is a serious trend now. Brandon shot her a glare that could have turned steel to ice. She sank back into silence. Dad flicked his hand, dismissive. That's enough. Meeting's over. As I packed my laptop, I caught Tara watching me. She mouthed something that froze me in place. I need to tell you something. Later that night, she found me out in the driveway. Her voice trembled. Brandon's been taking money from the restaurants, thousands. He's hiding it. My pulse hammered. Are you sure? She nodded quickly. I found the records. He's been lying to your parents for years. Before I could speak, Dad's voice boomed from inside the house. We need to settle the will. Brandon's the only one holding this family together. Mom murmured something too quiet to catch. Then Dad again, hard and final. Susan's off chasing her own life. She doesn't care about us. And right there, in the dark of my parents' driveway, the truth hit me. The betrayal wasn't coming. It had already happened. The next morning, my phone buzzed before the sun was even up. A new message from Mom. Don't call or come over. We're done. And don't even think about the will, sweetie. Did I read it twice, then a third time? The words swam like they were sinking underwater. For years, I'd been the one paying medical bills, cleaning up Brandon's debts, covering equipment costs. And with one text, I'd been erased. I sat at the edge of my bed, the city still half asleep beyond my window. My chest felt hollow, not shattered, just emptied. The kind of silence that arrives only after you've run out of tears. I typed 2 words back. God, I know. Punctuation. No explanation. Just 2 words. Then I set the phone down and walked to the kitchen. The kettle hissed softly. I poured the tea, steam curling against the dim morning light. I lifted the cup, took a slow sip, and for the first time in years, the quiet didn't frighten me. It felt like control. I opened my laptop. My banking app blinked awake. One by one. I shut everything down. Mom's hospital payments gone. Restaurant supply bills canceled. Brandon's loans cut off instantly. Each click echoed through the apartment. Like another door closing. I wasn't crying. I wasn't trembling. I just felt lighter. For the first time, my money wasn't fueling their silence. It was buying my freedom. By noon, the calls began. Mom first, then Dad, then Brandon. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Not out of anger, but because I finally saw how much control I'd handed them. The phone lit up again. Another call. And another. By evening, there were 20 missed calls, 5 voicemails, and a row of text messages. You're destroying this family. How could you do this to your mother? You'll regret this, Susan. I didn't reply. I flipped the phone face down. When midnight arrived, it started again. A storm of notifications, buzzing and flashing like fireworks. And as I sat there, my tea cooling beside me, a brutal but simple truth settled in. They didn't want me, they wanted the help. The version of me who never said no, who paid the bills, who kept everything running. That version was gone. I looked out the window at the gold-lit city. Somewhere, a car alarm wailed and then faded. I'm done, I whispered, not to them but to myself, and for the first time I truly meant it. By morning, the storm hadn't ended. It had simply changed shape. 37 missed calls. 11 voicemails. Dozens of messages stacked like warnings waiting to be opened. I made breakfast like nothing had happened. The smell of the scent of toast drifted through my apartment while the phone kept flashing beside the sink. I didn't touch it until one voicemail from Dad popped up labeled urgent. I pressed play. His voice burst through, sharp, commanding. You need to fix this, Susan. The restaurants can't survive without your help. You owe us that much. Oh. The word slammed into me like a slap. I'd covered hundreds of thousands over the years, my savings, my labor, my hours, and suddenly it was a debt. Another voicemail. Brandon this time. So you think you can just walk away? You're selfish. You're putting Mom in tears. Then Mom's voice, soft and quivering. Please, Susan, don't do this to me after everything we've been through. I pressed my palms onto the counter, the cool marble anchoring me. They weren't reaching out for healing. They were reaching out for control. By noon, Tara called, her voice low, urgent. They know I told you about the money, she whispered. Brandon's furious. He's trying to twist it, make it sound like you invented it. Don't worry, I told her. I'm done explaining myself. That night, sleep wouldn't come. I sat by the window, the phone glowing beside me, unread messages stacking like bricks. I should have blocked them. Instead, I watched them roll in. Each one another reminder of how helpless they were without my support. By the end of the week, I agreed to meet them, not to reconcile but to close it cleanly. The cafe was one of the few spots in Tulsa where no one recognized our family name. The air smelled of roasted beans and incoming rain. They were already there when I arrived. Dad, arms folded tight. Mom pale but controlled. Brandon tapping at his phone like a nervous tick. Tara wasn't there. Dad didn't waste a breath. You've created a disaster. Susan, the bills are overdue. Vendors are ready to sue. I set my bag down, my voice steady. That isn't my responsibility anymore. Brandon leaned forward, sneer twisting his mouth. You think you're better than us now, huh? Just because you mess around with colors and fancy furniture. I held his gaze. Design, Brandon. The word you're reaching for is design. He scoffed, shaking his head. You've always been dramatic. You thrive on attention. I cut him off. You stole from the restaurants. The sentence froze him in place. Dad's brow creased. What are you talking about? Tara told me everything, I said. The hidden accounts, the disappearing funds. Brandon's jaw stiffened. She's lying. She found the records, I replied, my tone flat. And you know that. Dad turned toward him, suspicion tightening his features. Is that true? Brandon lurched to his feet. You're taking her side over mine? She's been jealous since we were kids. Enough, I said quietly. This isn't jealousy, it's about respect and truth, two things I never received from this family. Mom's voice wavered. Susan, please don't do this. We can fix this. I looked at her. We're past fixing, Mom. You made that clear the moment you sent that text. The color drained from her cheeks. I didn't mean it that way. You said, don't call or come over. We're done. And don't even think about the will, sweetie. I repeated every word, my voice unwavering. You meant it exactly that way. The cafe had gone still. Even the barista froze mid-pour. Dad cleared his throat. You've always taken things too personally. I gave a small, quiet smile. And you've always confused cruelty with discipline. For the first time, I saw doubt flicker in his eyes. That I reached into my bag, took out a neatly folded folder, and placed it on the table. I sold my sustainable design project, I said. A national firm bought it for $1 million. Their eyes locked on me, stunned. I created all of that without your backing, I said calmly. No loans, no family funds, just my own work. Brandon's lips curled. Great. Want a trophy? No, I replied. I just need you to grasp that I don't rely on this family anymore. And you don't get to summon me when your world collapses. Dad's teeth tightened. You believe that money gives you strength? I leaned in. No. Leaving does. The silence that followed pressed heavier than any shouting match. Mom finally spoke, tears brightening her eyes. We're still your family. Family doesn't treat you like a cash machine, I answered softly. Family doesn't discard you the second the payments stop. Brandon slammed his fist against the table. You're pathetic. You think you can just erase us. I returned his rage with stillness. Funny. That's exactly what you all did to me. He drew breath to argue, but I rose before he could. I'm not your fallback anymore, I said. Not your escape plan, not your excuse. Dad's voice rose sharply. You'll regret this, Susan. I turned slightly, one hand brushing the chair. Maybe. But at least the regret will be mine. Walking toward the exit, I heard Mom whisper, Please, Susan, don't do this. But I didn't turn around. The door chimed as it shut behind me. Outside, the air was crisp, the sun sinking low, washing the street with gold. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I let it ring when I reached my car. I finally exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding through the cafe window. I could still see them, 3 silhouettes arguing among themselves, words lost behind the glass. I wasn't part of that chaos anymore. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through their messages, and hit delete. The screen went blank, quiet, empty, clean. I started the engine, the radio humming low. For the first time, I wasn't escaping them, I was choosing myself. A year later, news reached me through mutual contacts, not from them. The Hayes restaurants had collapsed. The legacy Dad guarded like a crown had shattered beneath debt and lawsuits. Vendors sued after uncovering Brandon's secret accounts. Dad tried to deny it, but the numbers told their own story. Brandon's name printed in the local paper beside. Words like fraud and embezzlement. Tara slipped away quietly, moving to Dallas with their daughter. Mom and Dad sold their home and downsized to a small place outside Tulsa. I didn't feel triumphant when I heard it. Just a deep, steady calm. The kind that settles after a storm, strips everything bare and leaves the air clean. My own firm had grown. I opened a second office in New York, traveling between cities, shaping hotels that carried my name in brass lettering. Sometimes I'd wander into a lobby I had designed, warm lights, soft lines, gentle music, and think, this is what home feels like when your own hands build it. One afternoon, seated by a window in a Manhattan cafe, I ordered the same tea I'd had that night. The steam rose into the sunlight just the same. A notification lit up from an unknown Tulsa number. I let it ring until it faded beneath the soft jazz overhead. I smiled, lifted my cup, and took a slow sip. The tea was still sharp, but now I knew why. The bitterness was never the drink. It was the lesson. People ask whether I missed them. The truth? I missed the version of them I kept imagining, the one that might have loved me without strings, without a price tag attached. But that version only existed in my mind. Now, when I think of family, I think of peace, the kind that doesn't drain or demand. The kind where a quiet morning means safety, not punishment. Family isn't blood. It's respect, and silence, when it's chosen, can be the loudest freedom. If you've ever had to choose between love and survival, tell me in the comments. I want to hear your story. And hit subscribe, because the next story might remind you that walking away isn't weakness, it's